Well, hello, Newburgh. This is Pastor Steve here for our midweek minute for the week beginning on Monday, April the 12th, 2021, but today is actually Wednesday. That's just how things go sometimes in this world. I was off last week, taking a little bit of time off after our Easter celebrations, and things are moving here in fits and starts. But I'm glad to be coming to you today, this time in the middle of the week, as we have our time of sharing together. Just a reminder to check out all of the different opportunities that are going to be upcoming later this month and also into next month as the weather gets warmer and as we hopefully are anticipating a return to in-person worship at the end of May. You can see all of that at our website at NewburgUMC.org, or you can check out our social media on Facebook and our Twitter account, and also follow our Instagram page there as well. Be sure that you're also subscribed to our newsletter via email, and you can get all of the latest information that you need. There's a lot that we have planned, and we hope that you'll check that out real soon. As we come to our time of meditation for this week, like I said, I had last week off, and so we had no Monday Minute. And as is typical when you come back from time of vacation, there's a lot of stuff that piles up, especially when you're coming back after the Easter time here. But Easter in and of itself is not just a single day. It is a season. And these 6 weeks starting on this year, April 4th, through the end of May, May 23rd, when we hope to come back to in-person worship, begins the season of Pentecost. So in these times that we are here, we are still celebrating the season of Easter. We're celebrating the resurrection. We're celebrating the new life that we have in Jesus Christ. And as we go through those passages together, we look at the ways in which God offers us new life. But it doesn't always come in the ways that we've expected. Now, I know I don't have to tell you that over this last year as we've been going through this pandemic, and we did not anticipate that we would be where we are at this point this year at any point last year. Surely we thought we would have been through this by now and everything will be back to normal. But unfortunately, it hasn't. I've mentioned Bishop Bard's quote that he put in a video a year ago saying that initially he had said last year that we would pick another day when we can all, quote unquote, come back together, and that day will be our Easter. Then, of course, as things progressed, unfortunately, then things didn't go the way that were planned, and Bishop Bard then described things as, well, the resurrection we're going to experience is going to be a lot more like Lazarus than it will be about Jesus coming out of the tomb. This year, as we've come to another season of resurrection, and we are still dealing with this pandemic, we're still dealing with closures, even though things are starting to open up, but especially here in the state of Michigan right now, we're seeing a surge in cases that we had not seen since last November when everything had to shut down again. That alongside of the fact that many people are getting vaccinated. And it's leaving us wondering, where are we to go? And what are we supposed to do? In some ways, we're in no better of a position than we were even a year ago. And as I've read through the resurrection accounts, looking for something to share with you today, and I was wanting to share with you the resurrection account, one of my favorite ones, from the Gospel of Luke, where Jesus encounters the two disciples on the road to Emmaus and then reveals himself in the breaking of the bread. There's fascinating stuff in there, and it's one of my favorites. But with the events of these past couple of weeks, I was drawn back to the Gospel of John. Now, in John chapter 20, we read the story of Mary's encounter at the tomb, where she comes and finds the empty tomb. She goes and gets the disciples. Peter and John come to the tomb. They find it empty as well. But then they leave. And Mary is left weeping, and it is there where Mary Magdalene encounters the risen Jesus. And he says, "Go and tell my brothers that I will meet them." And so she goes and says, "I have seen the Lord." Now, if we read further on in chapter 20, then we have Jesus who comes to the disciples who are locked in the upper room and says, "Peace be with you," and shows them his wounds. But Thomas, for whatever reason, was not there. And then we have the whole scene with Thomas when Jesus comes back and Thomas is there, and who says, "Unless I see Jesus for himself and his wounds, I'm not going to believe." And then Jesus then proves that again. And Jesus leaves them with a saying that I think is true for all of us. Have you believed in me because you've seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen, but still have come to believe. And then in verse 30, John tells us that Jesus did many other signs and wonders that are not recorded in this book, but these are written so that we would believe that he is the Son of God. And you could get to the end of verse 30 and put a bow on the Gospel of John, except he doesn't. There's a whole other chapter that gets put in there, John chapter 21. And I was drawn to that this week because I think that's kind of where we are as a people and as a society right now, especially also a church. John chapter 21 shows the disciples after Jesus had risen and had appeared to them, and they've gone through their own struggles and their own doubts, left wondering what are they supposed to do next. And so here we encounter the disciples on the lakeshore by the Sea of Tiberias, we're told in chapter 21. And they don't know what to do. So Peter says, "I'm going fishing." And the sons of Zebedee say, "Yep, we're going to go with you." Why? Well, if we remember in the original call of those disciples in Matthew and Luke, that's what they did. Peter and Andrew, James and John, they were fishermen. Jesus had risen, he'd appeared to them, and said that they were blessed, but they didn't know what to do next. So they reverted back to what it is that they knew how to do. And it was there where they encountered the risen Jesus another time, sat and had a meal with him as well, and then came to the understanding of somewhat what was going to come next. I think that's where we are as a society right now. We're left wandering around, wondering what to do next. I think that's where we are sometimes as a church. We're wandering around, wondering what is going to come next and what are we supposed to do. We've made plans, and those plans have been taken away. And so we make new plans, and those plans have had to be altered. And then the list goes on and on and on. Resurrection is a lot like that. And I think Jesus here in chapter 21 of John gives us a clue that, you know what? That's actually the norm. We're supposed to be figuring out new things. We are supposed to be following where he leads. And sometimes that's going to lead us to places where we don't want to go. Jesus asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me? Then feed my sheep." Peter actually gets offended by the 3rd time and he says, "Lord, you know I love you. Why do you keep asking me that?" And Jesus says, "Feed my sheep." And then he tells him that there's going to come a time where he is bound up and he is not going to go where he wants to go. And he is going to have to do things that he doesn't want to do. But that's where Jesus leads us. Sometimes to the places where we don't want to go and to do the things that we don't want to do. We've been doing that for over a year now. But we know that when we do come to the other side of this, Jesus will show us something. But then he's also going to lead us on to something next. So as we go through this season of resurrection, we like to think that it's all about Jesus coming out of the tomb and everything is okay. But we have to remember that in all of the gospel accounts, we don't see the risen Jesus walking out of the tomb. The tomb is empty. We only encounter him in other places along the way. And then He is the one who is showing us where to go next. Let's be alert and let's listen in these coming weeks as to where Jesus is going to lead us next. It may not be where we want to go, but it will be the place where Jesus needs us to be. In that spirit, let's go out and listen, and let's see where Jesus is calling us to go. We'll look forward to seeing you back next week for a regular edition of our Monday Minute. Until then, please be safe out there, and please be blessed.